It's obvious to anyone who looks that there are more people living on the street in San Diego County than ever. This disaster has grown into the sea of misery we see in so many San Diego cities today. The chronically homeless, families with children, senior citizens and veterans, unsheltered and huddled on the streets. Today we look at how we got to this place and why it's been so hard to fix, to do enough to make a real and lasting difference. The Roundtable Special Edition on Homelessness starts now. Welcome to our special edition on homelessness. I'm Mark Sauer, and joining me at the KPBS Roundtable today are KPBS reporter Susan Murphy. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Mark. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here. Reporter Lisa Halverstad of Voice of San Diego. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Mark. Good
you're back today. Dan McSwain, who's business columnist for the San Diego Union Tribune. Hi, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. And Allison St. John, North County reporter for KPBS News. Hi, Allison.
Good to be here, Mark.
Well, for decades, leaders in San Diego and many other cities have struggled to find solutions to the tragedy of those relegated to living on the street. Many of them are children. We're devoting our entire program today to exploring the growing problem of homelessness in San Diego with the reporters who cover this beat. How bad is the problem now? What's being done to help? What are the myths and the facts surrounding homelessness? What's worked and what hasn't worked here and elsewhere? And we're going to start our program with the extent of the problem itself and which city and county officials admit is really growing. Susan, you've been out there, as we all have here, covering this issue. Tell us some characterizations from what you observed just being out on the street.
Well, if you go down to the East Village, you'll see blocks lined with tents. The people who live in those tents are mostly adults, male and female, all types of demographics. They have their street names. We have Brother Shine and Mama Rita. There's Freckles and Sasquatch. They also have some turf wars. You can't pitch your tent unless you're kind of accepted into their community. If you go to the Central Library, you'll find the family room filled with mothers and children because there's not really any other kind of day center. So they sit in there and they watch YouTube on their phones and they play with the toys and read the books until it's time to line up at the shelter.
Mm-hmm. How do they coexist? Now, you mentioned that there's a protocol in pitching the streets. There's got to be crime out there. There's vulnerability. Safety is a constant issue.
There is lots of crime. There's drug deals. There's violence. Definitely all of the above.
Mm-hmm. Now, the shelters. What are the shelters like? How many do we have here? How many folks are in them at a given time? What's the nature of them?
Well, San Diego actually has fewer shelters than a lot of other communities, actually. Mm-hmm. In fact, our percentage of beds that are shelter beds is smaller than a lot of other communities in the United States. But what you find in the shelters is they tend to be pretty packed. There are long waits to get in, so sometimes people wonder, why is this person on the side of the road in a tent? Well, he or she may be in line for a shelter and just not be able to get in yet.
Mm-hmm. And that's the common
problem. And in
North
County, there's a collaboration of organizations that run shelters. They've been doing it for a few years. Up until recently, they've been winter shelters, and last winter they had 188 beds in like 5 or 6 different locations. Now those emergency shelters are increasingly turning into permanent year-round shelters because this is a problem that, of course, now is expanding to be permanent as opposed to just something we worry about in the winter.
And the police presence, I mean, they're constantly engaged with folks down there. We mentioned that there's crime ongoing, so obviously there's the police role in that. But you can't arrest everybody every day. You can't put them, in places in jails, and we don't have the rooms and resources for that. How do the police interact, and what's effective and what isn't there?
Well, every Monday morning, just about every Monday, police roll up at 7 o'clock in the East Village, and they do sweeps. And all the homeless have to pack up their tents and they load up their carts and they push them over to the Neil Good Day Center, to the patio, which overflows then with carts. And the city comes in and they sweep up the streets and everything that's left behind. And then when the police leave, everybody comes back and they pitch their tents again. Mm-hmm. Later in the afternoon, police will come back at times, or the next morning. Mm-hmm. They give out tickets for encroachment. It's basically illegal to block a sidewalk at any time. Whether it's to sleep there or to pitch your tent, you can't block it with your cart. If you go down to 17th and 16th and 15th Street, ask one of the homeless people there if they have a ticket, and they'll pull out 2 or 3 at times.
So it's an ongoing problem, Lisa?
Homelessness in and of itself is not a crime, but one thing I always emphasize is common elements of it are. So she talked about encroachment, illegal lodging, and usually police respond to those sorts of things when they have complaints. So even the sweeps, which actually are environmental services workers for the city coming and kind of cleaning up, there's a lot of, unfortunately, debris and other things associated with people living on the street, and some of the neighbors get frustrated with that, and frustrated when if it's a business owner, someone camps out in front of your place. And so as a result of those complaints, police will go out. And they say their initial step is that they give the person a warning, but where is this person to go? And that's the constant dilemma, is there's not always a place for that person to go. And so the city does have some settlements and things in place about how it's supposed to enforce. But the bottom line is, per that requirement, most hours, if there is a bed for that person to go to potentially, and they're offered that, they could be cited. And so a lot of people are cited.
And they are a little bit more lenient between 9 o'clock at night and 5:30 in the morning. But outside of those hours.
Well, Allison, it's very visible downtown, and
Right.
Susan was characterizing East Village, and anybody who's been down there certainly knows what we're talking about here. What about North County? Where do people tend to congregate?
Well, people think that North County is a more affluent community, so they perhaps think homelessness isn't so prevalent. But at the last count, which of course may be wildly outdated, it was a year ago, there were more than 2,000 homeless people recorded in North County. And in fact, the people in the coastal districts were the ones that were, homelessness was increasing faster there than anywhere else in San Diego, 36% increase over the year before. I think it's a little different because there aren't these centralized services, and so they don't congregate so much in one place. And also, well, in some ways it's worse for them because if it's wet, there is really nowhere for an emergency shelter like there is St. Vincent de Paul's. People are just literally under bridges and, in their cars, if they have a car, or behind dumpsters.
And we've had our share of misery this month with the weather here.
Yes, one hates to think where people are. I think there's a lot more people perhaps who might be living in the fields or more sort of rural areas in North County for people to hide out in. But the population is growing there just as much as it is in downtown. And in fact, some of the homeless I've spoken to up there say they've come from downtown because the lines downtown are so long, they decided to try the services in North County.
Mark, I went to a neighborhood policing community meeting in South Oceanside a couple of months ago. And the officer who gave that presentation and took questions from the crowd, most of the questions were about homelessness, about people camping out in abandoned lots on Caltrans property on the beach. And he said that just over the last couple of years, calls to dispatch for homelessness is at least a third of the calls in Oceanside. Wow. He said it's pretty much all he does. It's an endless game of whack-a-mole from where they're concerned. They can sometimes convince them to leave this place, but all they do is go someplace else. They're very aware of court settlements in San Diego and more recently Laguna Beach that says you cannot put somebody in jail you can't enforce laws that are on the books like vagrancy, illegal camping, public indecency, even drug use. I'm sensing a real morale problem among some of the ordinary patrol officers that I've talked to, and I've talked to 30 or 40 of them over the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's certainly got to have an impact on them every day doing
Well, there's 2 years ago, the people of California passed Proposition 47, and that took a lot of major felonies like heroin use and possession, methamphetamine possession, grand theft at under $1,000. These are all misdemeanors now. And a misdemeanor can still get you a year in county jail, but they are what's called cite and release misdemeanors for the most part.
So people who are spending a lot longer time in prison or in some sort of custodial situation now may be on the streets.
We've had 2 things happen at once. Number one, if somebody's mentally ill because they are hopelessly addicted to alcohol or another serious drug, an officer could get them into a treatment program, send them to jail, and then bounce them into a treatment program. Prop 47 has reduced that penalty and taken away that stick that drives a lot of people into publicly assisted treatment. And at the same time, it's released tens of thousands of people from county jails and state penitentiaries. And without the lawmakers, state lawmakers have broken their promise to increase halfway house funding, treatment, transitional housing. So a lot of these people end up on the street.
But what's interesting about
Susan,
that as well
Lisa?
is that when you go and ask, and I've done this, I actually spent a couple weeks at one point investigating what the heck is behind this huge increase in homelessness downtown in particular. And in talking to the experts, they really couldn't say for sure. Now, I kept pointing out to them, of course, well, you know, you can see what's happened since this was approved in November 2014 versus the numbers that are downtown today. And they were just saying again and again, we really need a more comprehensive study. We aren't really surveying these specific people to know. And the data that we do have doesn't show as many people being, you know, recently released from prison or track this specific sort of thing that we can draw a direct line. And so some people are really saying, hey, we ought to be studying that a lot more.
Well,
The only trouble is that I feel like if we focus more on that population, then we forget about the fact that there are a lot of families who haven't committed any crime, and the people I'm talking to are saying that, you know, you might have these more chronic homeless who are the ones you're describing, but right behind it there's this huge bubble of families with kids who are right on the edge of becoming homeless, and some of them are dipping in and out of homelessness on a regular basis. So that homelessness really is just the canary in the coal mine of the whole bigger problem of the fact that housing is just not affordable anymore.
And we'll come back in a moment here. I want to hear a little more on Prop 47 and what some different viewpoints are saying about that. But Susan, I want to get back to today was the annual homeless count. You were out there very early in the morning in the pre-dawn darkness. Give us your sense of that. Obviously, the numbers aren't in yet. But.
Sure, yeah, and this is an effort to determine how much federal and state funding the region gets to address homelessness.
And they do it once a year?
So they do it the fourth Friday of January every year. And it's not a scientific count by any means, but it's a point-in-time count where it's, you know, the same day every year. So last year they found 8,700 people. They're not sure whether that number has gone up. It seems that there's definitely a lot more people downtown in the East Village especially. They don't know if people are just migrating to that area because there's a lot of resources there for them. But this morning I was out in the East Village, and in some areas it's you know, there's 1,700 volunteers and they're scouring canyons and riverside, you know, rivers, edges and streets and neighborhoods and parks. In the East Village, of course, it's a matter of every step you take, and there's somebody and stepping over people, and how many people might be in this tent.
Because it's so congregated.
And to give you an idea of how much things have increased downtown, just since January, the number of folks living on the streets downtown, depending on which month you're counting, has either more than doubled or even nearly tripled. So there's been a significant increase. But the latest point-in-time count that Susan was referring to, it found that countywide there was a 19% increase in street homelessness, which is the homelessness that we see. There's a lot of homelessness that we don't see. And so a lot of folks in other parts of San Diego, whether that's North County or the beach communities or even East County, are more and more confronting homelessness as well. It's not just an East Village phenomenon, but East Village is the hotbed of services, and so a lot of people go there, especially when they're newly homeless.
Dan, I wanted to turn to you. You wrote recently an extensive, very insightful story about your own personal experience with homelessness and alcoholism. You've been sober for a couple of decades now. Obviously got your life back on track and a solid career and all. But you come at this from really a personal angle as a journalist.
Well, I do. My editors asked me to look into the data behind homelessness because it's clearly exploding in just the last year or two.
And difficult to really pin down. Yeah.
And one of the things I said was, well, you realize I was homeless. And they said, oh, yeah, that's right. Well, then we really want you to do it. And about 25 years ago, I was technically homeless for a period of about 3 years. It was a mental health problem, mostly addiction, but some other depression, anxiety, some other things. But I went from being a successful small business owner at age 29 or 30 to spending 3 consecutive years either in jail, halfway house, rehabilitation, and some brief periods living in abandoned buildings in a East City ghetto situation.
And you credited certain individuals who stepped in and helped you turn your life around. Huh?
Yeah, my recovery, Mark, took years, several years, and was extremely resource intensive. I lived in a group home run by a retired Episcopal priest. I went through there 3 times. My last time was 13 months. There was a police officer named Sergeant Green who made it his mission to put me in jail. If my behavior didn't change, he spent a lot of time on me. Volunteers, courts. Most people with my particular disease don't recover. My recovery was extremely labor and resource intensive.
And it's unusual, as you say, and most people it just
do you
is
think,
a chronic problem.
from
Allison?
your personal experience, that the policy that has changed at the national level now with Housing First, where the idea is that you give someone a home and they're more likely at least to recover and become more self-sustaining. Do you think that's realistic?
Well, the data is overwhelming. It helps quite a bit. And, we've all talked about the different categories of homeless.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. We've got some statistics here, and the folks watching on TV will be able to take a look at that. In just the broad brush here, I want all these numbers for the radio audience here, but it is mostly men, and it can be all ages. As we said earlier, it's the families. Tell us about some of the folks who are out there.
Well, nationwide, I always tell people about the 80-10-10 formula. Okay. Nationwide, 80% of the homeless people you run into at any given time are there very briefly and very temporarily. For them, the service, the nonprofits, the government safety net works very well. Somebody's leaving an abusive situation, somebody has a financial or medical catastrophe, they're homeless for a few weeks, maybe a month or 2, and then you never see them again. They're back on their feet. Then there's 10% that are intermittent, and they tend to skip off the bottom for years, like I did, frankly. And then the last 10% are the folks that I've been focused on with this reporting project, and they are the chronically unsheltered homeless. These are the people who, by definition, are disabled physically and or mentally. They've been living on the street or outdoors for a year continuously, or 3 times over 4 years. So these are the hardcore homeless people. A lot of them are never going to get better. You can't put them in a tough love rehab program. They're just going to leave. They're not going to pay attention to a curfew. They want to bring their dog. They want to bring their girlfriend or boyfriend. So with those folks, this Housing First model has been extremely effective. It says, we have to deal with them anyway. It's enormously expensive to call the paramedic every time they get sick, cycle them through the emergency room, put them in jail, feed them in feeding programs.
The frequent flyer syndrome.
The frequent flyers are extremely expensive, and every city who's done this successfully has seen enormous taxpayer savings by simply giving them a very spare 400 square foot apartment with a little kitchenette and just putting them in there and making services available.
Now, it's interesting, among some of the stats that we have gathered here, is 50% of people became homeless in 2016, is what the folks are telling us here in San Diego, right? So these stats that Dan's talking about nationally, are there some quirks here, things that are different?
One thing I would point out is, so for the longest time, San Diego has really relied on this point-in-time count that happened this morning to make its policies about homelessness. It's been the best data we've got. More recently, there have been some regional efforts to try to coalesce all the homeless serving nonprofits and groups together. And so they've been inputting information about their clients into a regional database. And using that database in more recent time, so a researcher from SDSU and the Regional Task Force on the Homeless have been starting to analyze this. And what they had found was that last fiscal year, which I believe would have ended in October or September, about 17,550 people had cycled through the homeless serving system in some capacity that year, which really speaks to what Dan's talking about. Now, of that, about 49% of those people were new entries into the system. That's significant, and it does speak to this, flow. But what we also saw in that is, what about the other half of those people? What's happening to them? What services or different types of housing are they going into? So one point, I'd kind of add to what Dan was saying about chronic homelessness in San Diego. We've had some results locally, but not as dramatic as other communities. And one of the reasons for that a lot of advocates would point to is we've really, for a very long time, been very good at producing transitional housing, which is programs where you get the services first, you're in temporary housing, and then at the end, they'll try to connect you with permanent housing. And there are lots of people that are very big fans of that, and there are a lot of people that get off the streets that way. But for this chronic population, the data that we have suggests that another tool, Housing First, works better. And so in terms of, as we're looking at this issue of Housing First and our, decreases in homelessness not being as significant as in other places, a lot of people are looking at this mix of programs that San Diego has and saying, ooh, we've got some changes to make here. And so there's a lot of system change happening in this region, a lot of programs being shut down or changed, and that is also contributing to what we're seeing.
Well, what you're saying, and I want to get to your point in just a second, Allison, but it sets up a clip we have from San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer on his State of the City address, and then also from the Regional Task Force. Let's hear that.
Solving homelessness is complicated because it's often the symptom of a much deeper problem. And tackling homelessness means tackling mental illness. It means tackling addiction. It means tackling poverty. It means tackling some of the most vexing and deeply personal issues that a person will ever face. Finally, we're going to know in real time which beds are available each night. And the city is partnering with the 211 information system to establish a 24/7 hotline in the next few months that will make this information available to the public, especially those that need shelter.
All right, and I want to pick up on what he said there in just a second, but we do have one other bite. This is Dolores Diaz of the Regional Task Force on the Homeless. Let's hear that.
What the plan will include is very specific actionable steps for our community to increase the stock of permanent supportive housing, for example. Do I feel that it's going to get worse before it gets better? It may.
All right, complicated. Go ahead, Allison.
Well, just that, I think that is the problem. Everybody who's been trying to struggle with this has found is that there isn't enough stock of permanent affordable housing at the end of the pipeline to make this work. So the Housing First model is a good model, and it maybe works for folks, but the trouble is if you're focusing on the chronic folks and even they don't have enough permanent affordable housing, and then there's a whole backlog of people waiting behind who are sort of second tier priority, who might be easier in fact to house, but you got to get the permanent affordable housing for these chronic people. That's sort of blocking the pipeline.
And I think a lot of these people have been lost in the pipeline. Nobody really knows who they are. They're not taking their medications. There's a lot of disabled on the street. Some of the local shelters and people on the front lines have said that they've noticed, this big increase because a lot of these people are on SSI, a disability insurance, federal, which is about $900 a month, and it's definitely not enough for housing rent here. Yeah.
And the voucher system is out there too. And does that work? There's been critics of that, right?
Well, I think we are as a community putting out a lot more vouchers, particularly for veterans. So housing vouchers most of the time cover about 70% of someone's rent, and then they put in 30%. And so we do have as a community more vouchers going out there, especially for veterans. They're going to start being more for folks countywide who have serious mental illnesses as well. But the challenge is, whether it's a Section 8 voucher or a veterans voucher, which comes with more services, it's hard to find a place that works. And so what we're finding with multiple different initiatives underway is that people are taking a really long time to find a place to live. Now, I do want to also talk about some of the
just like ordinary renters, by the way.
Right.
It's certainly
the problem in the whole market.
Yeah, but I also want to add some context to some of the plans that were talked about in the clips that you played a moment ago. So there are a couple different things that are pretty big that are being discussed right now. So you have a group that was once called the Regional Continuum of Care Council. Quite a, alphabet soup to even, they'll say RCCC, some people will call it. But this group is the group that has long kind of helped dole out federal money for homelessness. And in more recent time, there's been an effort to try to beef up this group and make it more of a regional leader to address homelessness and provide more oversight. That's now been merged with the Regional Task Force on the Homeless. So one of the big issues that San Diego's had for a long time is it didn't have a lot of oversight, didn't have a lot of leadership, and thus not a lot of accountability on solving this problem.
All right. Well, we got a short time left here. Is that a hopeful note then?
Well, what they are working on is a 3-year plan that's going to be released by this summer, hopefully, which will look at this, but then you've also got the mayor talking about separate plans. And the question is, do all these plans line up? Because if they don't, it just speaks to the coordination
Dan, we're going to give you the last word.
At the risk of raining on this parade a little bit, it is a zero-sum game, like most government programs. 2 years ago, there were 15,000 rental vouchers and 45,000 people on the waiting list. This year, there's 15,000 vouchers and 60,000 people on the waiting list.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but I appreciate this. This is not going to be the last time we hit this on Roundtable, and we're looking forward to all your reports and your great reporting going forward. Thank you all. That does wrap up our special issue on our program today on the Roundtable, and I'd like to thank my guests, Susan Murphy of KPBS News, Lisa Halverstadt of Voice of San Diego, Dan McSwain of the San Diego Union Tribune, and Allison St. John of KPBS News. And a reminder, the stories we discussed today are all available on our website, kpbs.org. I'm Mark Sauer. Thanks for joining us today on the Roundtable.